Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our newest edition of Shots of Legends. Today we bring you an Emmy Award-winning composer and creative director. We'll be talking with Danny Brown Jr., who's going to tell us about his path, his career, his goal was will to achieve in the next couple of years. He's been working with companies such as Disney, Warner Bros., Netflix, and so many others. So stay tuned and don't forget to follow us on our social media. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Absolutely. And sorry you were feeling bad like last week. It's no fun feeling gross. So
yeah, yes. Fortunately, I'm recovered now, and I'm ready to keep punching.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's never any good to feel gross. Let me tell you, I've been there.
Yeah. So how is LA today? How is Los Angeles, and how is your life going?
Yeah, it's a great question. My little studio that I'm sitting in is a small building behind our house. So sometimes the only outside world I get to see is that short walk between the house to the studio and back and forth. And the roofs of the two buildings are fairly close. So as I walk through, I can catch a little glimpse of the sky, and it looks like a nice day out there. I haven't really been outside, but it looks nice.
No, that's great. That's great. So yesterday I got this message from a friend of mine, and he said, "Like, oh, Sergio, you need to ask this question to Mr. Dan Brown Jr. Ask him what is the secret to win an Emmy." So I'm just I'm just sharing his question right now. Right now, I mean, what is the secret to win an Emmy? I know you have 11 Emmys, Emmy awards. So can you tell us a little bit about the sensation of the feeling of having this privilege of having this privilege as a professional?
Sure. Well, okay. Wow, loaded question, man. Loaded question. What is the secret to winning any accolade?
Yes. He was focusing on to these Emmys because he saw our this flyer and say like, well, he has a lot of awards there. So please ask him what is the secret to win one Emmy.
Sure. I couldn't answer that question for anyone else, but I can talk specifically about myself and maybe how that journey transpired. When I'm from the middle of America in St. Louis, and when I moved out to Los Angeles, and everyone's perception is different, but I kind of got the impression here that in order to be taken kind of serious, you really need to like get after some of the big awards. And does that make you any better than the next person or not in regard to your skill set or your talent? I mean, I don't think it does. I've met incredibly talented people that don't have any accolades. And not to rabbit trail, but just last week I had a lady here in the studio singing. It's the most incredible vocalist I've ever worked with. She's never won an award, and she's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. And so, not to go down that tangent, but for me personally, I felt to further myself and to further my brand, I really wanted to get after some of the big awards. So how does that look? How do you traverse that? How do you go down that journey and figure out how to win something? Because it's not up to you. If an academy is going to award you or even nominate you. And so I will tell you, I've submitted to many things I have not won, many things I wasn't nominated for. There was times where I was nominated for things and I didn't win things. And so I think I'm giving you a really winded answer, but it's a really heavy question. First thing I would say is, does it matter to you as an individual? So like whoever is listening to our chat now, and if you're a creative and you're working in any creative field and you know that there are award ceremonies out there, first you have to ask yourself, does that matter? I'll give you a great example. My son, he does not care about this stuff at all. Does not care. We bring up Grammys or Oscars or anything. He's like, I don't care about awards. Yeah, I just want to watch good stuff or listen to good stuff. So first you have to ask yourself, does it matter to you? And if it does, well, how do you go about finding the right project to get involved with? And then how do you know, even if you're in the right project, are the people that are running that project, are they interested in those kind of accolades? You see, so it was something for me where I knew that like I watched the Emmys growing up. To me, it was cool, you know. I wanted to win an Emmy, like it was interesting to me. And then coming to LA, I realized like, yeah, I want to get after this. I started producing our own content because I realized it's very difficult. Maybe it's not for everybody. For me, it was very difficult to find the right project. I'll keep it very personal since it's a personal question. It's very hard for me to find the right project to get involved with. And I got involved with some projects that I thought were the right ones. And then it turns out that some of the people involved in those projects were not like completely honest. And like they were claiming that they had accolades and they didn't. And it was like, really? Wow. I got this business card here in the studio, and on it, it says this guy's name. And it says Oscar winner, Emmy winner, Sundance winner. He didn't win any of those.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. So to land the plane on this question, I realized like, you know, I'm going to need to move more into like a producer role, producer space. I need to get behind some cameras myself. I need to get behind some production myself, and then just kind of be the driving force for the entire thing. And then, you know, that's what's worked out for us. So how do you win one? For me, I'll say like, you don't need any help from anybody. You just become your own producer, your own director, your own sound designer, composer, your own everything. Just become your own person. And that's how I did it. And that's how we can.
But how do you analyze the fact that sometimes people need this kind of credits to be how can we say because it's difficult to find some kind of a sponsorship or someone to lift you up when you sometimes don't even have some credits. And somehow these awards are kind of a credits to people that allow people to say like, oh wait, Sergio, Danny Brown has an Emmy, so he's the right person to work with. So how do you analyze the fact that many people look to these awards as a way to find the right person to work with?
That's a great question. Well, you are right. Someone once said, and I can't remember who said this to me or where I heard it, but credits are currency. It's validation. Credits are currency. I remember when I first got into the field of writing production music, for the first like 2 or 3 years, I didn't have any credits. I was just writing music for a company with the hope that that music would get picked up by some ad, some business, some TV show, some film, some trailer. And so, you know, I do look back at that time, and it was like the dark ages of writing and producing, because it's like you're doing all this work, you're slaving, and there's no credits. And I do remember very like vividly, like when I first got the first kind of like batch of credits, there was like an MSNBC, an NBC, like ABC, like some real like legit stuff was using my music. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. So like it feels like an eternity ago, but it was like, it was very cool. I also noticed how when I made some like posts on Facebook at that time about it, it also got a big response from people. So I realized too, like, wow, this is real. Like when you start getting some credits, people start taking you more serious. Now to answer your question, I wasn't any better or worse from like the Monday with no credits, and then the Tuesday that I made the post and then I had credits to my work. It just showed that what I was doing, I guess you could consider commercially viable. So, you know, how yes, do the awards go before you? Yeah, that is an important thing. So they go before you. Awards go before you, credits go before you. It does present to the industry, to the world, like, okay, that guy or that girl or that whoever in between is doing something that must be good enough that if I got 5 names submitted to me, I should listen to that person first or second. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, how to crack.
There was a time Jim Carrey was presenting this, I think it was an Oscar session, and he was just standing there. He said, "It's not only Jim Carrey talking. It's 2-time or 1-time Golden Globe Award."
Right. I see.
You know the
right. I've seen that.
Yeah.
He's a great example because he really gets it that, it matters and it doesn't matter. So let me clear that up. Like, going after the big award, I think it's great to do it. Like, I wouldn't have done it if I don't. I think it's great to do. And I think it's great for a couple of reasons. One is, and this is for me, and maybe this could work for someone else. It pushes me and challenges me to give my best work. It really does. I will tell you, this is a true story. True story. The very first project I worked on that I knew we were going to submit for consideration for awards. So, a true story. I had a secondary laptop off to my left side, and on that laptop, I had a picture of an Emmy. And every time I was working on the project, I would glance at it and I would ask myself, is this good enough for that? That is an absolute true story.
Wow.
And so, like, that challenged me to always do my best. So I think it's great to go after that stuff. But at the end of the day, and I hope everyone wins their awards and they get all their accolades, like, you have to know it will not bring you joy. It will not bring you happiness. Like, it's just a cool accolade. It looks dope in the background. Like, the real joy comes from the friends and the families and the health and the marriage. Like, let it matter professionally, not personally. That's how I truly believe it. Truly believe
it. Hello?
Yep, check.
Yeah. Okay, you're still here. I think we froze it. Yeah. So I was going to go a little back to way back to your career as a composer. I'm saying way back to the point that it all started. Just going, yeah. So can you tell us about the process? When did you had this vision? When did you felt that, well, being a composer is the right thing, is the right path for me? So can you tell about the process of when did it all started? Can you tell about the people that actually had some impact for this decision of yours to becoming the composer you are today? I'm talking about people that inspires you the most. Can you talk about this, the first steps as a composer? And what does it mean? And what does it mean to be a composer?
Well, I think these are wonderful questions. When I was young, another absolute true story. When I was young, and I mean like very young, 3, 4 years old, I would cry myself to sleep. I would sit in my mom's arms and cry, and she would say, "What's wrong?" And I would say, "I can't get the little man in my head to stop the music." Wow. True story. And I have those memories. Yeah, I have those memories, and I've always had melody and song flooding my mind, and I have never had writer's block ever. And I don't doubt anything that comes in. Like, it's always flooding in, and I just go with it. So that's been there since I was a small child. My grandfather was a bluegrass musician. Dad and uncles were like his band. So it's kind of like a family band of a dad and then his 3 sons, which are my dad, uncles, and grandfather. And they did like a bunch of cool stuff in the bluegrass community, and that's all in and around the middle of the, like the heartland of America. And then growing up, I grew up listening to like local bands in our area. My dad played music, so they were having rehearsals in our basement all the time. And here's a funny thing. So I'm just a little kid. I don't know anything about music at this point. I know I hear it all the time because it won't ever stop. And then my dad's bands are in the basement of our house practicing at loud volumes. And not to sound like I'm speaking negative in any way, but I just knew and I could identify that it wasn't that good sounding coming from the basement. I could just tell like the practices, it just didn't sound all that good. And, now, like, looking back, I can identify it was probably because I was hearing it through the floor and it was like muffled, and like all you hear is the bass guitar and the kick drum, and the guitars were not clear. So I'm sure what they were playing was fine, but I was identifying that it didn't sound right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then around 8 or 9, I started with, I actually started playing the drums that were downstairs because they were accessible. You just grab the sticks, you just beat on them. and then you had instant sound, but it didn't resonate with me as like, this is going to be my instrument. And then my dad had bass guitars, and so I started plunking around on his. And I do remember one time he gave me, like, I can't say like a lesson. He's an uneducated musician, but he knows how to play. And I remember him kind of like showing me like, hey man, put your finger here, pluck the little string there. And so I kind of remember one of those. But then I also remember like the bass guitar wasn't my thing either. It's bigger, it's heavier. I was a smaller kid. And then one like fall, I remember we were driving in the car. My mom said to my dad, I was in the back seat, hey, we should get him a guitar. And they got me one for Christmas. And I was either 8 or 9 years old. And then again, I get this guitar and I have it. I plug it in. I'm making all these noises on it. It didn't sound good. And, and why didn't it sound good? Well, I didn't know what I was doing, for one. I'm like 9. And then, is the thing even in tune? Is it even quality? I don't know. I can't tell. I'm just a kid. But I knew I didn't like it. So I gave up on it. But it sat behind like the door in my room. I vividly remember where I put the guitar. And then maybe a year went by and I had asked my parents, can you get me an acoustic guitar? Like, I want one that just like I can just strum on the porch.
Yeah.
And I remember they got me an acoustic guitar, and that sounded really good. Like I could hit the strings, I could hear it in my ears. Like, that sounds great, even though I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it was from there that like I really started putting in the hours of practice on the acoustic guitar first. And my gosh, I mean, years I would sit around playing that thing, sitting on the porch after school. Every morning I'd be on the couch before school playing guitar. And then it wasn't until like middle school I started playing electric guitar. And then something happened where it just kind of went like talent level, just like shot up. And it wasn't like a natural giftedness at all. I don't feel like I have any natural giftedness in this. Like, I have to work really, really hard for everything I do, other than the stuff that just floods my head. But I worked really hard for a couple of years playing, and I realized like, okay, I can like really play this thing. Like, I can really like make the sounds that I'm hearing on the CDs of the bands that I like. I can make it sound like that in my room. Like, this is great. I'm only like 13 or 14. So then we started playing in bands. I joined like some decent bands in our area, all playing like rock music and like throwback music, 80s rock and, glam metal. I mean, this is hilarious stuff now. I toured around the country in like a Motley Crue tribute band. Like, and I just realized, okay, the guitar thing is dope. This is what I want to do. And at some point in time, we moved from St. Louis to Denver, and I'm going to land this whole plane here. When we got to Denver, I met a guy who told me, I just did the music for a movie. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's not something I've considered. Like, let me hear it. And so I remember he showed me the music. I won't say names. I won't say who he was. I won't say the film. Okay. I just remember that, respectfully, I wasn't all that impressed. Humbly, I just wasn't. And like, it wasn't that I had some ego. I remember like watching the movie and hearing the music, watching the film. And I'm like, it doesn't seem right. Like, it didn't jive in my creative soul. Like, it didn't jive. And I had never done any of this stuff. And so like, who am I? I don't know. It just didn't jive. So I remember telling my wife at that time, I was like, I think we should move to Los Angeles. I think I need to write music for films and TV shows. And I've never done any of this stuff. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah, I think so. I'm interested in it. And this was like, I think right before it became like super cool to do this. Like, it's like really like a trendy thing now. It's like, I think I was like 2 years before like the explosion of like everyone wanting to do this and every college having a degree program for this. I could be wrong, but it seems like that's how my perception of it is, because I had never met anyone that did this. I didn't know anyone that was really doing this. I came out here, it still didn't seem like it was a big thing, even though there was lots of people doing it. It just wasn't like the coolest thing in the playground. We get out here and I start doing, I think, what everybody who wants to be a media composer or a TV or a film composer does. You just try to network with everybody. And you try to find every project you can, and you're on Craigslist and you're finding indie films and you're You know,
you had to fade in so to network so you can find the right contacts to be
gosh,
part of the.
dude, it's the worst. It's the worst. And so like you're slaving away trying to find it. And so then again, what would happen would be, and this is from my experience is my own and different from everyone else's. I would link up with like an indie director or someone who's getting after it. They'd send me the footage. I'd put it on the screen, and it wasn't dope. It just wasn't great. And I'm like, this film is like totally uninspiring, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would try to like start, and I would do it. I would write the music, and like I would feel like
But how do you feel when someone presents you this film and you had to compose the music for this movie, for this film, well, you don't like the movie. So how is the process to work on something, on a project that it doesn't amuse you the way it should? So do you deny the project or you keep working? How does it feel to do something like that?
yes, I would now. I would absolutely like if it doesn't inspire me now, then I would not give work that's inspired. I mean, it makes sense, right? So at this stage, it would just be like absolute no, respectfully, I'm not the fit for this. I wouldn't go into any detail why. I wouldn't be disrespectful or rude or anything. But what I would try to do is think about, okay, well, who would be a good fit for this? Because just because it's not a good fit for me,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it's not a good fit for someone who just graduated, or
Yeah.
maybe someone that's 2 or 3 years into their career, or maybe it's just a film that's incredible. It's just not incredible for me. And so, it's in a genre that I don't feel like compositionally I want to live in. Like we all want to say that we can write everything, and like most of us can write like decent in a lot of things. Some people can write incredible in all genres.
Yeah.
I don't. I personally don't want to. I just want to hang out where I hang out now. Sonically, it's where I love. It's where I enjoy. So I would just try to find the right composer for that project now. But if we backed up, when I first started, you take what you can get. So I guess that's the advice that I would want to give to like the up and coming composer, the newer composer, the younger composer, someone who's just getting into this. Sometimes you probably should take the opportunity, because even though you don't love it, it will teach you. I've learned something from everything I've ever worked on. And I will, let me throw this out here. When you get a project in that's not shot great and it's not edited well, maybe the white balance of the cameras are off, maybe the acting's a little, you now have the opportunity to be the crown jewel of the project. You could write the most amazing music for the project, and like you are the thing that people remember. Also, the right music, the right underscore, the right sound design, it's like subtext of what is happening in the film. And like maybe the writing of that project wasn't great, maybe the directing wasn't great, but now your music becomes the glue that like saves that thing. So I would say for anyone who's listening to our chat today, in the beginning, there was the word, right? And my word, and this is just probably do it. Probably do a handful of those things that later on, you'll pass on.
No, that's great. So, but how do you feel? I love the scenario behind you, the Emmys there. How do you feel when you analyze the first step you gave and your present now, your reality nowadays, when you just step into that studio, that room, and you find your Emmys there? Are you happy with your path? Is there something you will change? And how do you see yourself 5 years from now? Because I'm just talking while I appreciate the aims behind you. And somehow I'm trying to understand how do you feel when you analyze your first step and the fact that now you have more than 10 Emmys just behind you. How do you feel? Can you talk a little about this?
Yeah, So again, you have great questions, brother.
No, thanks.
You have great questions. So I grew up as a very poor kid in St. Louis, like St. Louis, North St. Louis on the Illinois side, very small river town, very poor, very sad, troubled, like so to think about that, I think about that kid a lot. I do think about that because that kid still lives inside of me a lot. I draw from that little guy. And if I could go back in time, I would just give him a hug, you know? So when I do think about that kid and to where I am right now, I think I wouldn't have believed it then, but also I think I might have believed it. You know, it's funny because in high school, there was a very heavy African American population in our school, and I remember this one kid all the time. He used to be like, "What's good, Hollywood? What's good, Hollywood?" He used to say that to me in high school. I never nicknamed myself Hollywood. They nicknamed me that, and so you know, did that stick in my subconscious? Like I was supposed to move to Hollywood, and then the town I'm from is called Alton, with an A, Alton, and when you are in downtown Alton, they call it Lower Alton, and Lower Alton is LA. And so I used to play in a band, and the singer would be like, "We're playing in LA tonight," but not really. We're playing in Lower Alton. So I had a nickname Hollywood, and I'm playing in Lower Alton, which they call LA. And I just remember thinking, like, there's got to be more to life than what I'm experiencing because everything around me, people are talking about somewhere else. So I realized at a young age, like, I'm in the wrong place. I'm hearing music in my head. I'm in the wrong place. It seems like people around me are identifying that there might be something, I don't want to say special, but maybe a little different about myself. But I didn't believe it. You know, there's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of sadness and hurt when you're in those kind of communities. So I think I could have got here faster, to be honest with you. You know, I think with the right people around you, I think if you, you know, yeah, I don't know. Everyone's journey is different, right? Everyone's path is so different. I think
Exactly. Yeah.
it's so different. And I'm 40 years old now. And so I think like if I came from like some sort of affluent family, which I'm not saying that I wish I did, I'm just saying that if I did, or if I
Yeah.
from you know, I had a network of people around me who were already connected to LA and in the industry, I think it'd be so much easier. And there are many people that have that benefit. I guess what I'm trying to convey to anyone listening to our chat now is like, if I can do this, I think anybody can do this. But what does it take?
But there might be some kind of flavor of a good sensation where you know that you started from nothing, if you allow me to say this way, and you're reaching these goals by your own because you gave the best you could, so you could achieve great things in life. So it might be somehow motivating, isn't it, to feel that even being uh, from that kind of poor reality, you had to build your own path. You had to fight your own enemies because sometimes the enemies are within us, are from our minds, you know. And you realize that, well, I had these hardships, etc., but I managed to get there. There might be something interesting in that. There is no, isn't it? I mean,
I think you're right on the tracks. You were right on the right track because I do find that the only thing that really holds me back is myself. And I really believe that because there are still things that I think I'm going to achieve. Like I won't list them now, but I have I have a list. You know, we all have our vision board. We all have our list of things that we want to achieve. Like I still have, and this is real transparency for our chat, I still don't really have the sense of accomplishment that I want. I don't. I really don't. And so like that might be encouraging to someone that's listening too, because like whenever you get to wherever you think you want to get to in whatever industry, when you get there, you can still be unsatisfied. So finding like that healthy internal competitive attitude, like I think I have that. Yeah, I don't have a sense of, you know, completion. I don't think I've arrived. I don't have all the right answers. I don't have all the answers. I still like, what the heck am I doing every day? Well,
yeah.
is this all this is, you know? So yeah, I don't know. But if I can get where I've gotten, I do think anyone who's willing to work hard enough, I think anyone can get there, but you gotta be it takes a lot of sacrifice.
like willing to face these hardships and keep
And
punching.
you gotta keep punching. For some of us, you have to be willing to pack up and move. You have to say goodbye to people. You have to say goodbye to relationships, to partners. You know, it's a lonely road to whatever top you are trying to get to, because if you think about the peak, it's not a lot of space up there. The base has a lot of space, but at the very top, there's only a few people that make it up there. So on your journey, you might have to, I had to push pause on a lot of relationships. Some of those I've pressed play back on, which I'm real thankful about, real happy about. So, I don't know. What can I say?
Yeah. But when you analyze life, can you tell us about those moments that inspires you the most to produce or to make the best project you have? When you analyze that, there might be a project you're proud of. And can you tell us about the moments, things that inspired you to produce that project? Is it nature, family, etc.? What are the moments that inspires you the most to be able to turn this idea into this magnificent reality that is a project you have there?
Yeah, okay, so I live by my own code of do no harm, do no wrong, do your best, right? Do no harm, do no wrong. So I will talk specifically about Girl Forgotten, What Happened to Brianna Wells documentary film that we've been producing for about 3 years. So feel free to link that trailer in our chat, buddy.
Yes, I saw something. I saw on your profile.
Feel free to link that. So without turning it into some sort of ad for that film, I'll just say, like, what inspired me was this young girl. There was this, I want to work on projects that are meaningful to me. Like, we've created our PSAs for different communities. We've, I only work now on projects that inspire me. A friend of mine a few years ago was racially profiled, and he created a documentary film, Walking While Black. I worked on that film, and I'll tell you, pro bono. I felt so powerful about that film. So I only want to work on things that that really inspire me. And this young girl, Brianna Wells, her story, lack thereof, inspired me out of Phoenix, Tempe, Phoenix, and specifically where she was murdered, South Phoenix. So, to answer your question, like, what inspires me, it's like, it has to be the story. It has to be something where I think we can do good. And after 3 years of working on her film, which is in the final stages now, I think it's going to be remarkable. I know that it's the best project I've ever worked on. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I know that. And what we've learned about her life, what we've uncovered, the information about her homicide, details that people have never heard, information that's not in the police reports specifically, but from eyewitnesses and ear witnesses. And I just know there's going to be something really big that happens in her story. And I also think there's going to be something that happens really big in an adjacent story to that film that kind of revealed itself while working on it. And in the Phoenix Police Department, there's some corruption that's being exposed. So yeah, I won't say a whole lot more about it, but I want to work on and be a part of things that make a difference, because we are here for a finite amount of time. While I'm here, I want to make a mark and a legacy that's not, the dude with a lot of Emmys. It's like, yeah, he had a lot of Emmys or whatever, had a lot of awards or whatever they are. But that's the guy that did some stuff, man. He worked on some projects that actually made a difference in some people's lives,
Yeah. But before we finish our chat, I would like to know a little bit more about the genre you work with. I know you love crime. You love,
I do.
You have CrimeSonics, and you're doing a lot of amazing jobs. I mean, you have worked with Disney, Warner Bros, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, and so many other companies. Do you feel satisfied being part of the industry and being able to produce or interact with these big companies? And how does it look like to And because what I'm trying to analyze here is the fact that you have this open door, so you can link with this company. And what do you expect actually to in this relation you have with these big companies? And somehow, what are you willing to achieve? Do you think that is there any project that could be bigger? So you could be more satisfied. For example, if you had a opportunity to work in this in the big movies. So can you tell a little bit about the what you have been doing with CrimeSonics and this genre, the pleasure actually to work with crime scenarios, and how did it all started? Because I know that there is a personal story behind the CrimeSonic. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, that's great. So there's a couple of points you hit, and I think I can hit them all. So CrimeSonics started because of my own experiences in the criminal justice system as a kid. I had mentioned that I grew up poor and I kind of grew up misguided. And yeah, I just got in a bunch of trouble, dude. I was a punk, really, and lost my freedom for a while. But before I was 18, so there's no felonies or anything. There's no misdemeanors on my record or anything. Now it was all expunged. I was very much a minor, but like all kinds of really dumb kid stuff that you do, and you get in trouble for it. And in my case, I went to a detention facility for a while, and that made a massive impact on me. So growing up, those experiences, they're still in my subconscious. I still think about them. Actually, my time there is a future screenplay. We want to turn some experiences I had into a film.
That's great.
And I think about that a lot because I had some really unique experiences in there. So flash forward, 30 years or whatever, 35 years or whatever, or 25 years. My math is terrible, apparently. I just knew, like, because I'm predominantly a guitarist, you can do a lot with a guitar to make it sound really crimey. And a lot of like the shows I was watching, 48 Hours, Dateline, shows of that nature, I was hearing music that had guitar in it. So I thought, okay, cool, that's my in. I have real experiences in the criminal justice system. I love watching these true crime shows. And this was way before the current, present trendy explosion of true crime. And so I was kind of ahead of the curve on that, which is pretty awesome. You kind of nailed that one. And yeah, so it kind of made sense that, you know what, I'm going to write from what I actually know, what I actually experienced, what I actually enjoy. And this came after I worked as a composer for Disney for a year. I was writing music for various other companies, and they were having me write for all these other genres of music. And the last thing I ever wrote for anyone else was a comedy cue, a comedy piece of music. And it was so depressing. Isn't that funny? I couldn't stand it. I want to be all mysterious and black and be in my studio all dark. And like, I was like, no, dude, no comedy ever again. And it dawned on me, I need to start something that's just uniquely
unique.
In one world that I actually know, and most of my friends now have become criminal profilers. And like even right now on the way here, I have a forensic criminologist PhD on her way here right now, who's also a singer. And so yeah, CrimeSonics is like, we do music, sound effects, Foley, authentic police chatter that we source in and clean up, and Crimescapes, which is like field recordings of like crimey kind of places. And we supply that content to the world via a global partnership currently with Warner Chappell Production Music. So it's a worldwide deal, and we're on tons and tons of crime shows, and that's what we do, man.
No, that's amazing. I would like to know, what is the most challenging aspect in composing a music or a new project on when you're doing a new project, and how do you feel when somehow you have let's say bad feedback from people that ask you to do a project? How do you feel? How do you react when you have like a poor reaction from a job you might have done, and say like, oh, you need to change this in that aspect? Can you tell about these two scenarios? How do you feel, and what is the most challenging aspect in composing a new music?
I don't ever have bad feedback.
Well, that's amazing then.
I'm joking. I remember, excuse me. I remember when I worked at Disney, there was a project we were working on. I sent the music in, and I sent it to like my boss or the lead. I can't remember. It's been a while. But then like this email traffic started coming back in, and it's like all of these people who are a part of this project have an idea and an opinion. Like, this works, but this doesn't work. I want to hear this, but not this. Try this, try this. It was like something like 35 comments coming in. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
how am I going to handle this? And so I remember kind of like looking through all the emails going like, okay, first off, who matters on these emails? Like, okay, big producer. Okay, that feedback I got to listen to, my boss, this guy, this director, and then all these other people. I'm like, they're not even part of this really. Like, or this person to listen to them. So
yeah.
First, you just have to understand whose feedback actually matters. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff that can come in from a lot of voices. You have to know the project and know who you're working with enough to know whose feedback really matters. Sometimes you may not agree with it. Sometimes you do. I will tell you, there's been times where I've gotten feedback in the past where it's actually really, really helped the project. I remember, not to rabbit trail, one time I got feedback on a piece of music I wrote. I had to really rearrange it. I said, vividly remember it. My B section needed to be my A section. My A section needed to be the B section. And in order to pull that off, I needed to write like a whole new section to tie these two things together. And like 2 or 3 years later, when I hear that same piece of music used on Dateline NBC, it was the new section of music that I wrote because of the notes I got. That was that new connective tissue that was actually used in a TV show. And so that in that moment, I realized, well, okay, the feedback is really crucially important, because I did not write that initially. I would not have written it if it were not for the feedback. So I remember early composer me, like, what do they know? Like, what do you mean I got to change something? Old version me, I realize, these people that you were working with, chances are they've been in the industry longer than you. They know the project better than you, or they just have a better spidey sense, And so I find great value in listening to the opinion of others. A wise man seeks the counsel of many advisors. And so doesn't mean that you have to agree, but try it. This is your job. Like, your job is to get in there and make music. So if they're giving you feedback, try it. Sometimes you'll try it and it just won't work, but you indulged it. You like let them see that their idea wasn't the right idea, or you try it and you end up at a different finishing line than everyone intended, and it does work. I'm trying to think of a time where someone's given me feedback and like it was like a crash and burn. I'm sure it's happened, but I would say by and large, when the feedback comes in, you have to know that you're working on a project where you can consider the source of the feedback. You trust the people, and it's not that they're just paying you so you listen. You've linked up with a project that you believe in, and you believe in the people that have produced that project. So I also do have a memory of one time I worked on a project for the Alamo car company, and the feedback came in, and I actually pushed back on the feedback. And it was the first time I had worked with that group, not to get into all the weeds, but like, they didn't know me. I didn't really know them. I had put this thing together, which I honestly didn't love, but the feedback that came in was like really kind of off base. And so I remember pushing back. And then the email that immediately followed was, "You're right, actually. Now that I think about it, what you said was right." And then we went with my original. Yeah, that's rare, to be honest with you, and kind of ballsy. That was a little bit risky on my.
Yeah. So how do you? Can you tell us about that? I know you are a creative director too, but we are going to talk a little bit about this chapter. But for now, I was going to ask you about more about the CrimeSonics, because I'm actually interested in knowing a little bit more about what you've been doing. What are the projects that you have, and what are you willing to do in the next couple of years? How do you see your company from now on? Do you think you're going to get this great partnership? What are you doing? And I know you've been working with these large companies like Netflix, etc. But can you tell about the vision you have for this for your company, and how people react to the fact that you are only, or at least focused on this genre, which is crime? Do you have positive feedbacks? Do you have many people looking for you? Is it how do you characterize? How do you see yourself as a professional who works only in this kind of genre?
It's a great question. When I initially started CrimeSonics, I did have people tell me that it was a bad idea because it was niche, and it was focused.
Yes.
And it was like, you can't just do one thing. Now, to me, we don't just do one thing. And I'll give you a great example. Let's say you're watching a TV show and the crime takes place in rural Texas. Okay. Now, let's say you flip the channel and you watch another crime show and it takes place in the Bronx in New York. And then you flip the channel one more time and this crime took place in the fjord regions, or like the farms of like Ireland or something. So we have Ireland, New York City, and rural Texas.
Yeah.
These three places do not sound the same. They don't sound the same. Yeah. Forensic science wouldn't sound like an interrogation room. And an interrogation room is not going to sound like some warehouse where the hackers are trying to steal your cryptocurrency. See, all these places, all these different styles of crime in different locations, they have a different dialect, they have a different sound. And so for us, like, although we work in crime, the umbrella of crime, underneath that is all these subgenres of crime. Think like Lizzie Borden, think Victorian era, think H.H. Holmes, think about crime in the 1800s. That doesn't sound like Wall Street crime of 2023, does it?
Yeah.
So different. And so like initially, to answer your question, initially when people asked me or tell me like, oh, I don't think you can do this gig, I don't think you can do like one thing, I already knew in my mind, because I had been writing this kind of music for years for all these other companies. In my mind, it was like, well, what do you mean we're not really doing one thing? We're doing tons of different stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to be like super creative with like crime by location only. Like, let's do Japanese crime. Let's do, crime in India, crime in Seattle. What does crime in Oklahoma sound like? What does crime in Minnesota sound like? What does crime in Tahiti sound like? In Cuba? You see what I mean? So I think it's super fun. I hope I answered your. Yeah, I think, I don't. Oh yes, yeah, so you asked like, where do I see us in 5 years?
But do you think that people see you now as a kind of authority in this kind of genre? When they look to Danny Brown right now, do you think they see you as a reference to this kind of jobs, looking to the fact that maybe might not exist many people working this kind of genre specifically? So do you feel like you're starting to be a kind of authority in this kind of jobs?
I think so. And I think so for a couple of reasons. One would be I receive music from composers from all around the world every week, and new composers from everywhere are finding us. And then they'll send in a message and they'll say like, you guys have been on my radar for like a year, and I've been afraid to submit my music to you, and like, I really think I have what it takes to be a part of your team. So that's encouraging. The other thing that's like frustrating but encouraging is I have watched other libraries and other companies try to emulate us. I don't try to emulate anybody, but I have seen them try to copy what we do. And one guy in one company specifically, and I watched, and I just kind of smiled because it's like, it's cool because it's like, they say like it's flattering, I guess it is or whatever, but it's also just silly because, just do what you do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to do what we do. And it's not because of me. I'm just humble enough and smart enough to go find the best composers in the world. I go find the best cellists, the best singers, the best violinists, the best woodwinds, everything. Slide guitar players, what, harmonica player, banjo players, whatever they play. I go find the best. And I only work with the absolute best or the most different. And then when I hear people kind of copy us, it's just fake. It's just like, it's obviously software or a ripoff.
Yeah.
Be funny. So I think we're becoming the authority. I tell you a short story. I did have a company reach out to me, a competitor of mine, to me, and they said, okay, we're in a really uncomfortable situation because we're working on a movie with a company out of Chicago, and they've used all of CrimeSonics music as a temp score, but they want us now to copy what you are doing. This is a real story.
Wow, that's so cool.
And temp scores happen all the time, but this company knew me, even though we're competitors. They came to me and they said, like, we don't feel good about this, because they know I'm quite litigious. Like, if you copy our stuff, I am coming for you. I don't play. If you hurt my baby CrimeSonics, I'll see you in court, and we'll win. And we'll win. And so they came to me. Then I reached out to that production company and film company. I said, listen, I know this is what's going on. How about I make it easy for all of us? And why don't we just either license you the music that you're temping with, or I'll compose the score myself for your film, and we'll work out a rate. And that's ultimately what we ended up doing. Was I ended up just scoring the film based on our own. It was a very weird story. So I authority because people are copying us, people are finding us, and people are trying to like have other people copy us. Isn't that weird, dude? Why do that?
Yeah. No, we're loving this chat. But before we finish, you didn't tell us about the people that inspires you the most. I know there are a lot of great professionals out there. We have Zan Zimmer and other orchestras that are doing so amazing, divine jobs out there. But can you, as a secret, can you tell us people that inspires you the most before we finish our chat today?
Yeah, and maybe it's surprising, and this is truly like, okay, Biggie, Tupac, Snoop.
Wow, great.
Like Eminem. I'm talking about all these incredible rappers, and you're like, what? This is not what I expected. I'm trying to think of some other people in other genres, like Elon, of course, like that kind of guy. I'm inspired by people who are uniquely themselves. There's something that I tell my son all the time. The reason why we gravitate towards someone.
But aren't you inspired by these people from hip hop, because somehow hip hop has this relation with crime, underground, etc. Isn't because of this?
No, it's not. Honestly, it's not that deep. It's the way I explain it to my son, which is we gravitate towards people who are uniquely themselves. Think about, and I always use Snoop Dogg. No one sounds like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, he's unique.
No one doesn't talk like anybody else. He doesn't look like anybody else. He doesn't rap like anybody else. He just doesn't sound like anyone else.
Yeah.
And I love the uniqueness of that. If I think about like guitarists, like a Stevie Ray Vaughan guitarist or a Joe Satriani, these two guys are considered the greatest guitar players ever.
Yeah.
Completely different, and they're completely uniquely themselves. And so, are there, is there a composer person out there that I'm most inspired by? Probably Gustav Holst. I think he's like a composer from the way back, because everyone kind of just sounds like him, to be honest with you. If you go back and Nine Planets, those compositions, and then you listen to like modern film score, we all just kind of sound like that guy. And so there isn't really one specific person today like that's related to my industry that I'm like, I think they're awesome. Like, they're all awesome, to be honest. They're all better than I am. They're all awesome. I just like people who are uniquely themselves. And I mean, their entire walk of life, their voice, their fashion, their vibe. I don't want to look like anyone else. I don't want to sound like anyone else. I want to be me. There's only one me. There's only one you, right? Be you. Just be you. If success is found in you, and I'll leave it. How about I end with this?
Yeah.
I didn't realize any level of success at all until I just bought into myself. What I'm going to do, I want to be me, start my own thing, name my own thing, produce my own stuff, sound like me, be me. And when I started being me, that's when everything took off. So I think that's the secret sauce for most people. Just be yourself.
No, that's great. It was a pleasure to have you there, to have you on Chat with Legend. We hope to have you in the next opportunities.
Awesome, man. It's great. And much success to you and everyone listening, brother.
No, thank you. Thank you. We wish you a great day. See you in the next opportunities. Peace. Yeah. Bye-bye. Yeah. It was a pleasure to have you there. We felt your presence. We hope to have you in the next episodes of Chats with Legends. See you there.